I've come to believe that there are almost as many reasons for becoming homeless as there are people who are experiencing homelessness.
Welcome to Understanding the Unhoused. My name is Joshua. Through a series of interviews with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, my intention with this podcast is to increase compassion and empathy for the unhoused. When people see an unhoused individual, they can feel fear, anger, apathy, sometimes all three. My hope is after hearing their stories, hearing what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis, it will make it clearer that these are just people. People who, through a combination of bad luck, bad choices, and, let's be honest, a broken system, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Okay, enough ado. A few months back, I learned of a book called Beyond Homeless: Good Intentions, Bad Outcomes, Transformative Solutions. The book promised to highlight innovative solutions from cities and organizations that are making a real impact. So I really wanted to talk to someone involved with it for the podcast. And after a few email exchanges, I was connected with the book's editor, Mary Theroux. We had a great conversation about what is working, what isn't, and the ways to bridge the gap. I hope you find the conversation hopeful and inspiring, and that maybe it will propel you to look into solutions for homelessness around where you live. Be sure to check the show notes for a link to buy the book and check it out for yourself. Please enjoy the interview. Mary, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about the book Beyond Homeless.
It's my great pleasure. There's nothing I'd rather do than talk about this issue and try to do something to help it.
Yeah, and what an issue it is. Probably the biggest underlying concern in the whole world. And it seems like no one knows how to fix anything. And your book, Beyond Homeless, seems to have some possible solutions. Can you talk about how you got involved?
Well, this actually came out of, I've been a volunteer and a board member with the Salvation Army for 25 years. And of course, I've been working to help people experiencing homelessness their entire existence in East London, in the 19th century, which was a hard place to be, to the present. And about 6 years ago, our San Francisco Salvation Army Board did some strategic planning and identified our terrible unhoused population as a group we could have a really positive impact in helping. So we formed a task force and started making plans to open some residential programming that would help people, provide people the opportunity, we called it the way out, to move from street homelessness to achieve their full potential through recovery, workforce development, life skills training, and just general, lots of support and love for as long as they needed it until they were ready to live on their own. Wow. So as a researcher, the task force said, Mary, could you give us a briefing on why homelessness is such a big problem? And I oh, sure, I could do that. So I started looking into it, and it's utterly mystifying. I could not figure out how this much money could be spent trying to address a problem, and the problem just keep getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
So that's when I came back to the office, and I said, this is a huge thing we really have to develop. So independent commission studies, peer-reviewed academic level studies into issues, and importantly, propose solutions. And so we started our whole Beyond Homeless initiative 6 years ago, and it's kind of taken over my life.
I can imagine. It's a lot of work. How did you have quite a list of people contributed to this book. How did they get involved?
Well, there's homelessness, as I know you must know, given what you're doing, is such a complex issue, and we needed a lot of experts into looking into different aspects of it. So we contacted people who were doing good work in all of these different, there's the housing aspect. There's the, harm reduction policy aspect. There's a lot of economic policies that impact homelessness as well as social policies that impact it. So we pulled together, a team of researchers and assigned each to go deep into the different aspects, and that's what we ended up with is our book Beyond Homeless: Good Intentions, Bad Outcomes, Transformative Solutions.
So let's talk about the second part of that subtitle, Bad Outcomes. Your research, I'm assuming, went outside of California. What was, from everything you looked at, what do you think the most egregious waste was in terms of the amount of money that was put in and the nothing that came from it?
It's not nothing. It's just, it's a flawed hypothesis that people experiencing homelessness is a homogenous population, and you can have a one-size-fits-all approach to it. And it's not. I mean, I've come to believe that there are almost as many reasons for becoming homeless as there are people who are experiencing homelessness. The stories are extraordinary, unique, and
all of them
really traumatic. I mean, I've talked to people and heard about their childhoods, and I've thought, my God, if I'd had a childhood like that, I'd be in the streets, out of my mind and self-medicating as well. It's horrible. But it ranges from, there is a lot of childhood trauma, as I'm sure you know, that results in untreated mental illness and substance use disorder to self-medicate the pain away. Clear up to plain bad luck, I lost a job, rent got hiked too much, and so on. So you've got an incredible array of reasons why people go into homelessness, and you need to have an array of ways for people to come out of homelessness. But for some reason, the federal government, in its infinite wisdom, decided that there was one solution, which is called Housing First, permanent supportive housing that's supposed to have wraparound services provided, presumably second. But in practice, putting somebody into a house is not the solution for everybody, and it hasn't actually worked very well in practice because the fact that it's not very much of the housing has been produced. And by taking all the money, all the funding out of emergency shelter and transitional shelter, you've now made the streets a waiting room for this permanent housing that doesn't come.
That never happens.
Right. And so people are stuck in the streets. They're not receiving immediate assistance or, in many cases, any assistance. And they get worse and worse and worse until, okay, now you're homeless enough that we can give you a house,
Right.
Wherein they might have just needed something very basic on day one.
It's been my experience just talking to people that people, like, if they just had, obviously this is not always the case, but most people, if they had just one support system at the beginning of these things happening, it could have turned everything around.
Right, exactly. And the amount of money that's being spent, all of those support systems should be readily available.
Yeah. I mean, California alone has spent, $8 to $10 billion on homelessness, and I've seen absolutely no changes.
Well, the audit that came out earlier this year showed, $24 billion spent by the state over the past 5 years, with absolutely no accountability. They don't know where it went. They don't know what it resulted in. And there are duplicate agencies that are not talking to each other. It's just, it's a terrible, like I said, if that money had been directed strategically and with accountability. Are you helping people? Prove it. Show us how you're helping people. Okay, we'll give you more money.
Right. Right.
Oh, you're not helping people. We're taking your money away. But there's none of that. It's just, it sounds good. That's the good intentions part. Well, this sounds like a good program, so we'll give you a very large grant, and we won't be back to check on how you're doing. So it's just an invitation for corruption. You can't really blame. You can't blame the agencies. Where's the accountability for the people who are distributing the money?
You mentioned a couple of places in the country that have actually done things correctly.
There are good programs literally almost everywhere if you look around. They're good. But the challenge with most of them, they may be helping 50 people or 100 people or whatever. That's why my favorite, and we were just there again 2 weeks ago, is Haven for Hope in San Antonio, because it's a citywide solution. I mean, it literally came out of a businessman who got concerned about their level of homelessness and who contacted the mayor, whose election he'd actually opposed. So it's not like they were buddies. I heard you say you're concerned about homelessness. Were you serious? And the mayor said, "Of course I am." And the businessman said, "Well, I want to help." And so the two of them got together and they formed a task. The mayor made the businessman the chairman of the task force, and they brought everybody into the task force. I mean, homelessness advocates, police, fire, EMS, the hospital systems, all of the nonprofits, and created a citywide task force representing every single sector. And they spent 2 years visiting 200 programs around the country to get best practices. And then they created a strategic plan, again, citywide, but it's all around this 22-acre campus that they created right next to downtown, which is a full one-stop resource center, residential resource center for the needs, virtually every need of people experiencing homelessness or a danger of experiencing homelessness.
Right.
They have 80 nonprofits on site, and then they partner with another 50 or 60. So instead of, here you are experiencing homelessness, normally what happens is you contact social services and you tell them your problem, and they'll say, okay, you have an appointment in 2 weeks that, you're going to have to take 2 buses to get to.
Yeah.
But in San Antonio, you just go to this place and you get, there are 2 levels. One is the so-called low barrier, where you don't have to commit to sobriety. You don't have to commit to being in a program or anything. You can just have a safe place to sleep. You can get a shower, 3 hot meals a day. But you have access to any services that you want. You don't have to, but you can. And then the other part of it is called the transformational campus. And that's resident. That's, you commit fully. I'm going to go, I want to go through recovery, and I want to commit to a plan that gets me on my feet. And so in that part, they ask you, okay, tell us your story. And then you have access to an individualized team that works with you on whatever it is that's standing in your way. And they've been operating for 15 years, and they've been tremendously successful. And it's very cost effective as well. So I don't understand. I was going to say, that's got to be like bringing in money, but like putting the output alone has to be like, how is that not being used as a template across the country at this point? My only explanation is, it really takes political will. In almost every community, it's certainly true here. Everybody's operating in silos, and they're very protective of their turf. And they had that problem in San Antonio too. The nonprofits were afraid, if we all work together, that means I'm going to, lose my funding. So they kind of had to strong arm them into doing it. You had the mayor who was controlling the flow of government money, and then you had this businessman who was very influential in the philanthropic community and was able to help direct that money. And so they were kind of like, you will work with us, or, you're going to lose your funding kind of thing. Right. And that kind of political will is hard to gather. And so overcoming kind of the status quo of, we're over here doing our thing and we know what we're doing is good, and we don't want to talk to anybody else. We don't want to work with other people. Right. So you really need leadership to bring those people out of their silos and get them to work together. And that's really what we've been working on, is how do we help replicate that kind of community everywhere? That would be transformative. I mean, you said it was a businessman working with a mayor that got everything running. Right. We have more than enough money here in San Francisco.
or the Bay Area in general to solve homelessness overnight, probably.
Right.
If we could get that kind of teamwork to happen.
So we've actually been organizing some gatherings and bringing people together. I actually found people more welcoming than I expected. So a couple of years ago, we had a kind of private sector convening. We got 30 or 40 groups together and just asked them, come in with your top 3 or 4 concerns and your top 3 or 4 ideas. And let's see if there's some major initiatives that we can align around that we can, advance further if we work together than if we're all doing our own thing. Yeah. And that really started a conversation and I think opened the willingness to then 2 weeks ago, we took 60 people, which included public officials. We had the heads of homelessness from San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose. We had 2 or 3 state senators and some other public officials, and then a lot of some service providers, some philanthropists and others. So they came with us for 2 days to Texas. So we went to San Antonio and toured Haven for Hope. And then importantly in the afternoon, we met with community leaders to, learn more about, what does it take to create that kind of community? Yeah. And then the next day we went to Austin, Texas, which has an interesting program there called Community First, which is permanent housing for people who have suffered from chronic homelessness, but it's unlike anything you've ever seen. It's 53 acres. It's tiny homes scattered across these 53 acres. They're different designs. It looks like a suburban community, except the houses are all really small. And they have, I think, 500 people living there. And it's wonderful and very healing. And then again, that afternoon, we met with members of the community from Austin to learn more about, how they brought that into being. And then we'll be following up with a gathering, of the people who went on that and ideally, some of their colleagues later this month. So we're trying to push that, we're going to create this community and we're going to hopefully get people to get behind solutions that work. And I'm optimistic. We'll see.
I mean, that's awesome. That's more than I think has been done to this point. So what, if any, direct experience do you have with homelessness?
None. Being as a volunteer, trying to help people experiencing homelessness, but I've had a very blessed life.
That's good. And with this coalition that you've talked about, does it have a name? Is there an actual official organization around it?
We're just doing it under the umbrella of Beyond Homeless.
That's good. Yeah.
So
nice and simple.
We branded the whole thing as Beyond Homeless, and Beyond Homeless is just such a nice, positive moniker that it's something that everybody can get with. It's not saying anything political or partisan. Who doesn't want us to get beyond homeless?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of the terminology homeless versus unhoused versus all the other terms that can be used? I've had it told to me that unhoused is a sugarcoating way of calling homelessness something else.
I don't know. I kind of object to it because it's just a very blanket description. Yeah, people are living in the streets and they're unhoused. But that's not the point. It's not as if you put them in a house, everything would be fine.
Right.
There's serious issues here. Again, back to my original point is these are individuals who have, and I just don't, labels are so awful because everybody is different. Yeah. Or, community members who are struggling or, everybody wants something nice and neat, but it's not nice and neat. It's messy and it's tragic and it's,
and that's horrible. The thing, you use a term like homeless or even unhoused, and immediately people get a certain image in their mind, and that is nowhere close to the right description for everybody because everyone's going through their own thing. So,
right.
I'm wondering what your thoughts are on how difficult it will be to move forward with things. I mean, granted, you have to do things at a micro level to really make a difference. But with the current administration and the way that they look at all of this, do you think it would be harder to move things forward if you actually come up with like real solutions on a bigger scale?
The danger is, I mean, this whole thing has just gotten so politicized, and it's very difficult to have. For some people, it's, you know, there's just a knee-jerk reaction of if you raise questions or suggest doing things differently. We're very careful in the book not to make it just a criticism. I mean, it's meant to be very casting a vision that the way things are is not the way things have to be. But there are a lot of vested interests in homeless infrastructure and bureaucracy that make it challenging to affect change. And I'd rather this weren't a matter of federal policy at all. And HUD funding has had an outsized impact. The problem with federal funding is that nobody directs money according to who's producing good outcomes. It's all, they come up with this theory of, we know the answer to the problem, so we're going to issue grants that have all this specificity in it. You know, you can get this free money if you use it X, Y, and Z. And I don't care which side of the spectrum you're on, it doesn't work.
No.
And so we've heard a lot of rumors about what the policy is going to be under Trump, but you know, we don't have any specifics, and so people are panicking that it's going to change. I don't know what it's going to change to, but I don't, you know, it's bad now. I think it's going to continue being bad, but we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, with San Antonio and other places like that, like it. Yeah,
the irony is at almost the exact same time that you know, the Housing First policy became and all the federal funding shifted out of emergency shelter and transitional and only into permanent supportive housing. San Antonio took the exact opposite tack of they put all the funding into this emergency, you know, low barrier shelter at Haven for Hope, and then the transitional housing, which is the transformational campus. So they can't get any federal funding because they're taking the exact opposite tack. They get some city money, they get some state and county money, but it's a 50-50 private public funding that they operate under, but no federal funding. It's kind of like, and they've done better than all the people getting federal funding.
I was going to say, I feel like that should be the role model going forward.
Exactly. How about if we keep our money here in California and we work on it ourselves, and you guys in Washington stay out of it and don't take your cut for your salaries and bureaucracy and everything else. Yeah, just one example, you know, detox got cartelized under the Affordable Care Act, and so in California it's all under Medi-Cal now. So in San Francisco, you used to have the Haight-Ashbury free clinic, and you had, you know, this detox place and this detox place. Well, since it all got cartelized, it's all under HR 360 here in San Francisco. But the point is that if somebody presents themselves and said, hey, you know, I want a recovery, because they're going to get reimbursed by Medi-Cal, they have to do an assessment before they can admit them. Well, they can't do an assessment on the spot. So they'll say, oh, you know, come back in 2 days so we can do your assessment. Well, in 2 days, you've changed your mind and you don't want to get off drugs anymore. Yeah, and we've seen, the results we've seen is that the numbers of people going to recovery has just plummeted. And so the Salvation Army, you know, not to make this an ad for them, but they started you know, recovery on demand that they just got private funding for. So if you present, you say, I want to enter recovery, they say, great, come on in, and, you know, we'll do your TB test in 2 days or whatever, but, you know, let's get started. Nice. And, you know, it's just, we have to get, you know, you have to meet people, you know, we hear all the time, you know, meet people where they are, but it's true. If somebody wants to get off drugs, like, is in the mood this minute, you got to say yes.
You got to run with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
because it may not last, or something awful could happen. They could get relocated. Like, who knows? Like,
yeah, or they could overdose. You probably know this, that the highest levels of overdoses is after somebody's come out of jail or the hospital, because they've reduced their resistance, so the same level of drugs that they were using before now kills them.
So when you sat down to edit this, what did you find to be the most challenging aspect of putting all this together in a narrative that would work for the general public?
Well, the most important thing, again, we didn't want it just to be some kind of a scathing critique of the way things are. We wanted it to be something positive.
Mm-hmm.
And again, housing first itself is not bad. It works for some people, and if it were done the way it's laid out to do, where housing first, services second, it would be great. So we get people mad that we're attacking housing first, and I say, we're not attacking, we're just saying it's being done badly,
right,
and it shouldn't be the only thing that's available. So that's the most challenging, is to lay out, okay, these are problems with how we're doing things currently, but without making it sound like, we just hate everything that's being done, and
right.
and you're a bad person for doing it.
Yeah. But yeah, housing first is that's the problem, is that they just kind of stopped with that. Like, okay, we'll get everyone a place to live, although they haven't even done that. But you need to give them services. You need to get them out of the mentality that they developed being on the streets, or even, living in their car or couch surfing or anything like that.
Well, and also to get, to qualify for housing first, even if there were a gazillion units available, you have to be pass the test of being chronically homeless. Okay, great. So stay in the street until you're chronically homeless and you're in really bad shape. It's so cruel.
Outside of Haven for Hope, what else have you seen in your experience that's working?
Almost all these things work. The Downtown Streets team, they do great work. Union Mission Rescue in LA and Skid Row does great work. But again, the problem is we're creating numbers of people experiencing homelessness with kind of a fire hose, and we're fighting it with, thumbs in the dike kind of thing.
Right. Right.
And we can address the downstream results. Even Haven for Hope can address the downstream results pretty well. But we've also, at some point, we're going to have to go upstream and figure out what can we do to help stop thousands of people a year falling into homelessness.
And housing is part of it, but definitely not.
It's a necessary but not sufficient. And one estimate. This estimate is now a few years old, but it probably is still. I'm sure it's still true. There was a 2019 study that showed that in California, if housing were deregulated such that there was a lot of housing available, you'd cut homelessness in half.
Okay.
So, and
that's huge.
one of the things we all struggle with, those of us who provide homelessness services. So somebody gets working again with the Salvation Army with this Way Out program, but we keep struggling with, okay, somebody is with us for a couple of years. They've gone through recovery. They're doing well in recovery. They've got a job. They've picked up the life skills. They're ready to go out and live on their own. Well, where do they live?
Right. Yeah.
Where can they find a cheap apartment?
Right.
It's like, that doesn't exist. So, and I think almost every community in the country is suffering from this now, because we've just overregulated housing so much that there aren't cheap homes available anymore.
Not at all.
And we've mandated, houses have to have this, that, and the other thing. And, not everybody has to have, it's better to have kind of a okay house and have a house or an apartment than, it's nice to have these things, but you don't have to have all the bells and whistles that they're insisting that every apartment and every house has to have.
Well, thank you, Mary, for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Beyond Homeless is out. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, hopefully in local bookstores as well. We'd like to support local bookstores, but I don't know where it is.
Everyone listening, please support your local bookstore.
Yeah, go in and ask for Beyond Homeless, Good Intentions, Bad Outcomes, Transformative Solutions. And it's not it's a thin book, but it's got a lot of stats in it and hopefully a lot of good answers and can help people in their communities know what they can do to get involved and help their neighbors who are suffering.
Hi again. Thanks for listening. If you know of any unhoused individuals that would like to be interviewed or you would like to submit an interview yourself, please reach out to us through the website, understandingtheunhoused.org. Click on the contact button, send us a quick message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can and get things moving. Also, while on the site, if you're feeling generous, please click on the donate button. There is a very low overhead for this podcast, but there are costs involved. Thanks again for listening. I hope after hearing these stories, you will have a little more compassion, a little more empathy, and a better understanding of the unhoused.